the necessity of revelation and the need for Deen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Whenever we see something that is made by man, we cannot deny that it was designed and it has a maker. However, when we look at the human heart or the human brain or anything in the universe that we live in, if we think a little bit deeper than we usually do, we will come into a conclusion that they must have a creator and a maker. Whenever you get a sophisticated device, such as a smartphone as an example, you will find an instruction manual with it in order to know how to operate it better. Human beings, the universe, and life are even more sophisticated. Is there any instruction manual for them as well, to know what's the purpose of their existence? Some may say that we can make our own instruction manual. However, we have to realize the limits of human intellect. Our perception, knowledge, intelligence, and judgment are limited, subjective, and biased. Imagine that you have been living for the whole of your life in a locked room that is separated and secluded from the rest of the world. You will not be capable of knowing about the external world unless someone from outside that room will come and tell you or try to communicate with you. So, we need a transcendent source to tell us about the universe, about the purpose of life, and about the way of life. We need answers to our metaphysical questions. Human beings have many metaphysical questions which require definite answers from a transcendent source, from the source, the creator. What is the origin of life? Why are we here in this world? And where are we going, or where are we heading to? So, do humans need religion? If we examine Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we will find that the answer is yes, definitely yes. Religion will contribute to humans' self-actualization, since it provides a sense of purpose and explains for the humans why do they live in this life and how should they live. Is religion necessary? Pragmatically speaking, religion lives on, which means that it is still needed as it is still serving certain functions in human life. Some may say that no, religion is not necessary. The famous psychologist and the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, had written a book about this, named it The Future of an Illusion, and by illusion he means religion. In his book he said, and he proposed that religion or religious faith was a kind of mental illness, neurosis, and that as human beings progressed, religious faith would completely disappear. However, modern psychology disagrees with what Freud proposed about 90 years ago. Contemporary psychological research has demonstrated that religion was not a mental illness as Freud and some other psychological theorists declared, but a basic element of mental health. Patrick Glynn stated, "Scientific research in psychology over the past 25 years has demonstrated that, far from being a neurosis or source of neurosis, as Freud and his disciples claimed, religious belief is one of the most consistent correlates of overall mental health and happiness." He also wrote, "Study after study has shown a powerful relationship between religious belief and practice on the one hand, and healthy behaviors with regard to such problems as suicide, alcohol and drug abuse, divorce, depression, even perhaps surprisingly, levels of sexual satisfaction in marriage on the other. In short, the empirical data run exactly contrary to the supposedly scientific consensus of the psychotherapeutic profession." What does modern sociology say about the necessity of religion? Dr. Patrick F. Fagan wrote in Why Religion Matters Even More, The Impact of Religious Practice on Social Stability. Over the past decade, considerable research has emerged that demonstrates the benefits of religious practice within society. Religious practice promotes the well-being of individuals, families, and the community. The practice of religion also leads to a reduction in the incidence of domestic abuse, crime, substance abuse, and addiction. In addition, religious practice leads to an increase in physical and mental health, longevity, and education attainment. There are many stories who have been enjoying the life of the rich and famous and enjoying the pleasures of life, living a hedonistic life, who have been seeking for answers to their questions, who have been looking for something which will quench their spiritual thirst, and then end up embracing Islam and becoming religious. And we mentioned some of these stories, such as that of Lynn Ali and that of the famous rapper Loon, whose name is now Amir Muhaddith. Let's ask a genius on this subject matter. Albert Einstein said, "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind," which implies the importance and necessity of religion. Now we know that religion is necessary. Yet, what are the evidences for its veracity and validity? A true religion must provide evidences for its supernatural source, i.e., that it cannot be the product of human intellect. What kind of evidence or evidences does Islam provide to prove its veracity and to show that it has a supernatural source rather than being fabricated by a human, that is, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him? There are two types of evidences to check. First, circumstantial evidences, the context in which prophecy was claimed, the environment in which revelation took place, the interactions between the Prophet and his people, the level of knowledge and education at those times. Factual evidences, the Quran and the prophetic teachings, their inimitability. How likely is it for them to be fabricated by men? The person and character of the Prophet himself. If we check all these facts about Islam, we will come to realize that it is more likely a religion of a supernatural source rather than a man-made religion. Shall we ask an objective authority? Why not? Sir William Montgomery Watt, a Scottish Orientalist who has studied the life of the Prophet and Islamic scriptures for quite too long, he had a lot of books about Islam and the Islamic civilization. In his book Muhammad at Mecca, printed in Oxford in 1953, I will not read the whole quote, you can read it by yourself, but I will read the most important and significant part of it. He said, "His readiness to undergo persecution for his beliefs, the high moral character of the men who believed in him and looked up to him as a leader, and the greatness of his ultimate achievement, all argue his fundamental integrity. To suppose Muhammad an impostor raises more problems than it solves." So, if we were to suppose that he was an impostor, a fabricator, then this will raise more problems. Which means that if you will not believe in this man, if you will not trust his prophecy and believe in his message, then who are you going to believe? What makes Islam necessary, and what makes Islam a viable way of life that one can opt for? First, it provides a clear rational creed, which is not illogical or irrational. Yes, there are things that we cannot see, and science confirms that. Our hearing and our vision are limited, as an example. Thus, we cannot see the angels or the spirits and what like. Secondly, direct relation with God, with no mediators. You pray directly to God. You ask God only. You don't ask any other human being. Third, universality. It's a religion for the whole mankind, not only for a certain race or a certain people. Fourth, practicality. It's a practical religion. It is not only theoretical. Let's say, for example, the problem of poverty. Islam provides guidelines to eradicate poverty, such as abolishing usury, or what is now known as interest, and establishing the zakat system, in which charity is paid in a way to provide all those who are in need and all those who are poor. And governance of the law, no clergy in Islam. The law, the Islamic law governs all. There is no one who has the right to claim that he is ruling by the right divine. No one has any divine authority, and the law rules all, even those who are the most knowledgeable Islamic figures. Comprehensiveness. It's a complete way of life that entails all aspects of life and provides full guidance for human beings to know about their life and their destination after life. Moderation between matter and spirit. We witness two types of extremes in this world. Those who live only for money and for looks and for fame and for temporary pleasures, living a hedonistic life, and those who would renunciate such world and go live, let's say, in a monastery or on the top of mountains, living like monks and renunciating the ephemeral world and its pleasures. Both extremes are not good for human beings. Islam is a moderated religion which does not keep us from our materialistic endeavor. It encourages us to do so, and at the same time it asks us to perform spiritual duties which are for our own sake. God has prescribed those acts of worship for our own sake as human beings and for our well-being. I will conclude this presentation by quoting George Bernard Shaw. I will not read the whole quote, it is too long. You can pause it and read it as you will by yourselves. However, I will read the first two paragraphs. He wrote in his book The Genuine Islam, Volume 1, Number 8, in 1936, he wrote, "If any religion had the chance of ruling over England, nay Europe, within the next 100 years, it could be Islam. No other religion has had such a record of success in uniting, in giving equality of status, of opportunity, and of endeavor to so many and so varied races of mankind as Islam did." He also wrote, "I have always held the religion of Muhammad, that is Islam, in high estimation because of its wonderful vitality. It is the only religion which appears to me to possess that assimilating capacity to the changing phase of existence which can make itself appeal to every age." Thank you for listening attentively. Feel free to ask questions by posting them as comments on this video. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.